Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Tonight, we focus on the rising tension within the People's Democratic Party, PDP, ahead of its planned national convention. The contrast microzone to the northwest is already causing ripples among party heavyweights. Our former Minister of Special Duties, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, has submitted his nomination form as the endorsed candidate by governors of the PDP. Former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, has cried foul, alleging he was denied the chance to purchase the forms. Lamido, visibly aggrieved, is threatening legal action to challenge what he calls an orchestrated form of exclusion. Analysts warn that internal rifts could derail preparations for the party's elective convention billed to take place between November 15 and 16 in Ibadan, Oyo State. On the program tonight, we'll unpack these developments with political affairs analyst and commentator Jide Ojo, as well as PDP chieftain Muhammad Jabu. First, let's bring you up to speed with the latest political developments in the polity.
Former Jigawa State Governor and chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, Sule Lamido, has threatened to take legal action against the party if he is not granted access to purchase nomination forms ahead of the forthcoming national convention scheduled for November 15 and 16 in Ibadan, Oyo State. Lamido was speaking with journalists in Abuja on Monday after his attempts to obtain the PDP national chairman nomination form proved unsuccessful. Disclosed that both the National Secretary, Senator Samuel Anyau, and the National Organizing Secretary, Umaru Bature, were involved in the matter. Former Minister of Special Duties, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, has submitted his forms to contest for the PDP National Chairman ahead of the November convention in Ibadan. Turaki is reportedly enjoying wide support among party stakeholders who have adopted him as consensus candidate. Ekiti Governor Abiodun Oyebanji has been confirmed as the APC governorship candidate for the 2026 election after a consensus affirmation exercise in Ado-Ekiti. 885 delegates from all 16 local government areas endorsed him following the withdrawal of his only opponent, Mrs. Atinuke Omolayo. INEC Chairman Professor Joash Amopiton says elections must be decided at the polling units, not in the courts. Speaking at the Law Teachers Conference in Abuja, he vowed to tackle the flood of pre-election cases that have long clogged Nigeria's electoral process.
The latest in Nigerian politics today. Let's segue back to the main conversation of the day, which is the PDP National Convention. Some hiccups or something more many would describe as the situation that had unfolded today, because the narrative is not only mixed, but it's one that is sending the wrong signals, especially from a couple of weeks ago when everything looked set for the November 15 and 16 elective convention of the PDP, a party that has been dogged by internal crisis for some years now, especially after the defeat in 2023. Well, let's bring in our guest, who is not necessarily a new phenomenon in the conversation around Nigerian politics, because he has a wide understanding of the politics of the day, the history behind some of the drama that is unfolding before Nigerians. He's political analyst and columnist, Mr. Jide Ojo. He'll be joining us virtually from his residence in Abuja this evening to provide some context to this conversation. Mr. Jide Ojo, a pleasure to see you once again. Thank you most kindly for joining us for tonight's conversation.
It's my pleasure. Good evening.
Right. This is a gift that keeps on giving. The crisis in PDP is dishing several headlines week in, week out. A couple of days ago, one would have thought that all was set, especially when the Governors Forum endorsed a particular candidate of their choice. And we know they pull rank when it comes to some of these decisions. Give me your 2 cents about what you make of the events of the last 8 to 10 hours. Sule Lamido's allegations, the suspension of the screening exercise that's billed to commence on October 28th, which is supposed to be tomorrow, as well as the temperature of what's happening with the convention.
Well, People's Democratic Party is suffering from what many have described as a self-inflicted injury. And one of the general malaise of all the political parties in Nigeria has been lack of internal democracy. A party that has produced 3 presidents like PDP has been used to impunity over time and has continued along that trajectory, and they are paying dearly for that sin. If you look back in time from when the former Plateau State governor, Chief Solomon Dashepla, was at the helm of affairs, down to Amadou Ali, to the recently demised former Minister of Agriculture, Abdullahi Ahmed, to even when they brought in Alimadu Sheriff and all of that, you find out that this whole issue of convention being embroiled in serious controversies has not been new to PDP, because there's always been issues around microzoning, issues around imposition of candidates. Governors are asked to bring their cronies and nominate into the NWC. And now that is the authoritarianism that some people within the party are challenging. Just last Friday, some weekend, one of their chieftains, in a public live telecast, said PDP is dead. Is dead. And now, today, they are behaving true to time. Even if there is a supposed consensus candidate and one of your own decides that it's not part of that consensus, he wants to buy the form, that form should be available. My brother, remember what happened in the lead up to 2015 presidential election, when the party claimed to have printed only one presidential nomination form, and 2 or 3 others who wanted to purchase from, one of them being the former wife of Chief MK Abiola, and then the son of the former Prime Minister, Tafawa Balewa. Both of them were denied. The party claimed at that time that they printed only one nomination form. And that was part of what expedited the loss of the presidential election in 2015. So, like I said, this has been the typical attitude of PDP chieftains, to ride roughshod over members and claim that it's either their way or highway. Right. But unfortunately, barely 2 weeks to the said convention, we don't know what even the court will say in the coming days, because there are still a number of litigations pending in court that one is not too sure. And if Lamido adds his own to it, that will mean a lot is going wrong for the People's Democratic Party ahead of its national convention.
Well, some of the reporting that we have been listening to indicates that, listen, it's a purely administrative situation. The sale of the forms have been closed a little over a week now, and today was supposed to be the last day of the submission. But are you reading something else? And do you think his allegations about a strategic exclusion, so much so that you can only have one person at the end of the day, is what is playing out here?
Of course, that's what's playing out. Don't forget, there were about 3 aspirants for that position of national chairman. which I read about sometimes last week. I think Kabir Turaki, Lamido, Sule Lamido, former governor of Jigawa, and one other person. Now, if you look at the chain of events, the National Organizing Secretary allegedly claimed today that he has never cited the forms that is purportedly being sold, and that it is the chairman of the organizing committee, that's the Adamawa State Governor, Governor Fintiri, that is in custody of the form. But if Fintiri will even be the chairman, should the forms not be in the National Organizing Secretary's office? And why would the National Organizing Secretary claim not to have cited the forms? That means it is Fintiri that decides who gets the nomination form or not. These are people who are willing to pay for the forms. Don't also forget that today, Ugo Chinyere, Honorable Ugo Chinyere, and 20 other PDP members in House of Reps alleged that the form has been sold to a loyalist of Governor Peter Mbah of Enugu State to produce National Women Leader, when Peter Mbah had already left PDP. So there is a lot of mistrust and distrust within the PDP. And they are claiming that if that situation is not reversed, that they were going to dump the party. Already the party has been hemorrhaging since 2023. And in the recent past, you could see the number of defections out of PDP. Already last week, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, 2 of their governors defected within a space of 24 hours, Joyediri and Peter Mbah. And as we are talking, the one in Taraba is already making consultations on whether he should leave or stay. Even the governor in Osun was purportedly rejected. He would have defected long ago, but there was pushback from APC, people in Osun State. Just last week also, we heard that Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State was making moves to join APC, and stakeholders in APC said they don't want him because, according to them, he's sitting on their stolen mandate. So you can see that many of the governors are particularly, except for a couple of them, many of them are kind of looking for a way to bail out. And that is very concerning. For a party that is the main opposition party, for a party that governed this country for 16 years, for a party with a lot of history behind it, a party that has remained steadfast since 1998 when it was registered. And now, look at all of that. It's like an empire that has crumbled. It's so unfortunate and very painful that PDP is finding itself 10 years after it lost power, rather than rebuilding to reclaim power in 2027. It's still immersed in this kind of internal fractions and animosities, so much so that party members are now, swing the leadership almost on weekly basis. So it's unhealthy for the party. When this thing started in earnest last year, they were claiming that was Atiku Abubakar, when he was still in PDP, alleged, I think he was the one that made that statement, alleged that APC was using 50 million to lure some of his governors into the APC. But people said 50 million to a sitting governor who controls billions of naira. How much is that? What is that nonsense? Now you can see that it's not just APC that is the headache of PDP. It is actually the PDP itself that are ego and intrigues and what else can I use? What other word can I use? It's actually the challenge. Rather than rebuilding, rather than mending fences, they set up Bukola Saraki committee to reconcile all the warring factions. How much success has Bukola Saraki committee achieved ahead of this convention that is coming up within 2 weeks? Nobody has had Saraki saying anything in the press. And all is not well. All is definitely not well within the PDP fold as we speak.
Okay. Just to clarify on some of the counter narrative that we've been hearing, we understand that according to the PDP, some of the at least stakeholders within the National Working Committee that spoke to some of our reporters, as well as some members of the National Convention Organizing Committee, they say the forms were never sold at the Wadata Plaza, which is the secretariat of the PDP. Regarding this particular convention, forms are sold at the National Convention Organizing Committee secretariat at the Legacy House in Maitama. But in speaking about the drama that unfolded today and what may happen in the days to come, how does Sule Lamido's political history fit into this? Because a lot of people would say he doesn't fit, the character of a personality that would dramatize what we're seeing play out here. He's an elder statesman, one who would have been expected to be open-minded about a consensus candidate by a majority of the stakeholders of the party, which is presumably the former minister. Why do you think Sule Lamido is not playing along?
I think, Sule Lamido may actually have tried to teach the leadership a lesson. If you listen to Nyesom Wike last Friday, he said he, as a minister of the Federal Republic and a two-time governor and a minister under the party, was being sidelined, that he was not being carried along. And that may actually be the same feeling that Sule Lamido has, that as a former two-time governor of the party in Jigawa State, he was sidelined. The issues around the consensus, maybe he was not involved as to, sometimes when you are in the midst of people who are chieftains, who are accomplished, who are wealthy, they want to, even when they don't need that position, they want to teach you a lesson. And that's it. As it were now, you recall that even as at last week, there was an issue that was the case of Saman Yawu, the secretary of PDP, claiming that his signature was forged by the leadership of the party. And there was a counter narrative that no, it was not true. So, and when you look at even the battle the party has undergone to have Anyawu sit as the secretary of the party, the fact that Anyawu is seen in PDP as a mole of Nyesom Wike, all of these are part of, and then it has also taken the coloration of North versus South. The Nyesom Wike being from the South is feeling sidelined, marginalized, and felt, okay, if you don't have my inputs and you don't consult with me, I will make this convention impossible. The same way, Lamido may feel as a northerner, and the party has already in its 102nd national, NEC, National Executive Committee meeting, had zoned the chairmanship of the party to the north. So even if there will be a consensus, for those who have aspired, they should have been part of that consensus arrangement to say we are all brothers from this. I mean, Kabiru Turaki was a former minister of special duties and intergovernmental relations. Sule Lamido was a former governor. They are both from the Northwest. They could have talked and reached out to one another. With the third person, I'm trying to remember the name of the third aspirant. They could have been part of the so-called consensus meeting, where all will have been settled in terms of, okay, let's put our best foot forward. Let's Kabir Turaki, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, let him be the national chairman because his legal background and all that will help to steer the ship of it. But the moment Lamido saw that he was not being consulted, he was not being carried along, he actually came forward. So I don't know about the narrative of whether the sales of form has ended about a week ago. If that is true, then Lamido was wrong to come on a day that the forms are supposed to be submitted to want to procure form. Then, if it is also true that he went to the wrong venue to procure the form, I don't know which one to believe out of all of the stories. Assuming he was wrong, he went with the press. The National Organizing Secretary could have easily said, oh, the form is not being sold at Wadata Plaza, go to the Legacy House. What is the distance between Wusetu and Maitama area? I think that place in Legacy House falls within the Maitama area. Yeah, because it's not too far from the Maitama General Hospital. So the man could have been redirected and said, oh, the form is still being sold, but it's not being sold there, go to this place. But right, for the National Organizing Secretary to say he himself is not even aware of the sales of the form, I think it's marks of lack of trust and lack of coordination and lack of direction.
And who are the bad faith actors here? Because there are arguments about who want the best for the PDP and who are considered, those who are considered double agents, so to speak. I mean, you've mentioned a couple of people who are not necessarily trusted within the rank and file of the PDP. Would you say that all the people involved in this unfolding drama are acting in good faith? And are they also acting in the best interest of the political party that is PDP? Because the bigger question is, if the majority of the political party are with the choice of Tanimu Turaki, why all this hue and cry? Why not forge ahead in the interest of the majority?
Well, my brother, you see, that is the question. I did mention earlier on the issues around lack of internal democracy. I always am very worried about the culture of impunity amongst our political parties, where they do not want contestation. They don't want contest. Look at what else happened in Ekiti State. You said it in your background when you are giving updates. What happened in Ekiti? There are people, one aspirant from Lagos State, who is from Ekiti, wanted to buy form. They precluded him from buying form and ensure that Oyebanji, the APC governor in the state, emerged as a consensus candidate, even though the only other lady that was cleared with him purportedly stepped down. So the same way, when you look at how the leadership of APC, the chairmanship of APC has been emerging since the time of Odige Oyegun, I'm not sure APC had a convention where they vote to elect their chairman. Adams Oshiomhole, I think, emerged through a kind of consensus arrangement, which was not at the convention level. Then you have, after that, you've had this guy, was the former Kano governor, who was also brought in a kind of consensus arrangement. And then you have Professor Iwada, who also came in as a consensus arrangement. So when you look at all of this, it's not a malaise of PDP alone. It's a malaise that cut across the different political divides.
Right.
And that's why I am very worried. I am very worried. In this country, we have a political critical to election convention consensus. And somebody said that I'm not part of it. Let me buy from, I want to buy from, I want to contest. Why shouldn't you allow him to procure? Let him be defeated there. If truly there was a consensus, the governors or the other key players will ensure that their preferred candidates or aspirants emerge victorious at the convention ground, rather than playing this hide and seek, ensuring that they don't sell form to whoever they seem as the opposition. Then that means there is no trust. There is no trust. So for me, it's not just about PDP. It cuts across almost all the parties. And that's why I deviated by telling you about what is also happening in APC, how Shomole emerged, how even this Yobe governor, when he was in acting capacity, Malabuni for almost 2 years. It was just like imposed. Then from there, they brought in the Kano governor. What's his name? Abdullahi Ganduje. Then from Ganduje to Iwata. All of them, which of them emerged in a competitive election at a convention of APC? So the same thing has also happened over time within the PDP fold, where they are always afraid of competitive election. You will find out that on the day of that convention, if it eventually holds in Ibadan, the 15 and 16, there may just be one out of about 21, 22 positions that will be contested. Every other one will be purportedly through affirmation, through so-called consensus arrangements.
Right.
And that is not good enough for our democracy anyway.
I mean, it's one of those conversations that has polarized people's point of view, that another form of democracy is also the ability of people to come together and agree on a pathway forward without necessarily putting it to a vote. But let's consider the history of the PDP over its 26, 27 years in existence as a political party in this country. It has weathered so many storms, from when it was in power to when it lost power in 2015, at least at the presidential level. But we've also seen its dwindling or declining political value and currency, going from 30 states to having just 8 right now. And even that 8 has a big question mark, because, as you alluded to earlier, the reporting is suggestive that some governors might still leave the party. But most of the people within the PDP believe this elective convention is the panacea, is the answer that will help them turn a corner. Is there anything that you think suggests that this time around, this storm may consume the party?
Well, that's $1 million question. I earlier talked about the Bukola Saraki Reconciliation Committee that was set up, was it early this year or last year? It's not saying anything. Many state chapters of PDP are in crisis. A case in point is Edo State and several other states where you have dual leadership claim, 2 state working committee, Look at even Rivers. In Rivers State, the same thing is happening. You don't know which is the authentic PDP leadership in Rivers. So this is the part of what the Bukola Saraki committee ought to have assisted to ensure that these all warring factions are brought together. and that all cases in court are withdrawn, and that the party forge ahead. Because having party in crisis is not a new thing. Globally, it's happening in many of the parties. But if not properly managed, that's when it becomes fatal. Because like it has happened in PDP now, they have lost a lot of their elected members in 2023 to the ruling APC. Labour Party has similarly lost a lot of its elected members to APC. The even NMPP has lost some to APC. Incidentally, no one in current position is going the direction of ADC, and that is also a story for another day, because even the ADC itself is facing a lot of leadership crisis, as there are pro and anti forces against the emergence of David Mark as the national chairman and Aregbesola as national secretary. So, long story short, coming back to specifically to answer your question, it will have been so heartwarming to see a lot of reconciliation efforts made and cases in court withdrawn, and all parties, all one, because the warring parties are known. For instance, why can't you bring on board Nyesom Wike for whatever is worth, whatever it's just, you know, there's a popular saying that a leper may not be able to milk a cow, but he can spill the milk. It's just a proverb. Yes, or we can make a 6 points demand.
I think we just lost the connection to Mr. Jide Ojo. We're going to work on it to get him back to further the conversation about
this convention that has to request why are they? It still remains a find a way to to bring him on board and ensure that there is at least majorly all of them are on the same page ahead of the convention, because I'm just so afraid that there may be a court injunction very close to that day that will truncate all the plans that might have been put in place ahead of that convention.
All right, we lost the connection there in a moment, but just to add to what you're going to say next, just to recap in case we lost the bit of the point that you were trying to make there are people within and outside of the PDP who are looking at the former Jigawa State Governor with a suspicious eye. He has fraternized with the ADC for a couple of months. He still appears to have some sympathy with the people in the coalition movement of the ADC. He's still a member of the PDP nonetheless. But over the last couple of months, he has expressed his dismay about how the party has handled the Wike situation, for instance, alongside many other issues. And something for someone who is sitting on the fence about so many burning issues, he does not fit the bill to put his hat in the ring as the next chairman of the PDP. Do you believe that those concerns are germane?
Which concerns are you talking about?
That Sule Lamido has been someone who has fraternized with the ADC or the members of the coalition, and him putting his hat in the ring to be the next chairman of the PDP calls to question his loyalty to the party. I mean, he boycotted the last 2 or 3 NEC meetings because he said the party has lacked the discipline and he's not going to associate with the party until they get their acts together. I mean, he's pointed to the Wike situation alongside many others. So the question is he the right man for the job? Is he loyal enough to command the respect of the PDP?
No, this you earlier alluded to issues around double agents. Just like he pointed that Nyesom Wike, he himself is also fraternizing with ADC. But in as far as these people are still registered member of PDP and they are chieftain, you need to find a way of taming them so that they don't play disruptive politics. Right now, there is a lot of trust issues in PDP. There is trust deficiency because, and that is making the leadership to misbehave, quote unquote. They don't trust anybody that's from the camp of those they believe are double agents. But how then do you exclude them without incurring the wrath of their paymasters? So that's why it's a very tricky situation for them. I understand perfectly well. They are all politicians. They know what they are doing in the cocoons of their rooms and behind the scenes. How they are, some of them are making effort to bail out. But you see, like I said earlier on, for someone like Sule Lamido, assuming without considering that he's a double agent, having openly criticized that having distanced himself from the activities of the party, you allow him to buy form. Let him buy the form. But you also, the serving governors who knows where they want the pendulum to swing, will make sure that he's defeated at the poll. That's my own belief anyway, maybe because I'm not a politician. If you know somebody is playing anti-party behind the scene, and you try to let him see the reason why he should join the consensus train, and he refuses to do so, what you do then is to make sure that the person suffers humiliating defeat at the polls. But for you to openly now deny him access to nomination form under one guise or the other will be counterproductive, because if he goes to court, the court can be sympathetic to him, and that could scuttle the convention from being held. The same thing with Nyesom Wike. Yes, Nyesom Wike is not even hiding his own anti-party, and despite the fact that he even has said he will not campaign for the presidential candidate of the party, he still believes that the party should zone the presidency to the south. Now, there's something I read in the papers that some people believes that the current crop of leaders in PDP
I'm afraid we're
actually,
yeah, Mr. Jide Ojo, just hang on for a moment. I believe we're losing the audio and video quality of Mr. Jide Ojo. I don't know. Can you hear me? Right. Right. Okay. We're going to have to wrap things up, but in just a few seconds, if you can, if the PDP is able to see through this elective convention in Ibadan on November 15 and 16, will it be a bigger and better party going forward? What is your projection? Very briefly.
Sincerely, if they are able to weather the storm and have a rancor-free convention, those who have jackpot out of the party can jackpada. It's a Yoruba coinage. You know, jackpot means you run away. And those who run away can still return to the party. So the best interest of PDP is to have a unified, strong, credible, successful convention. Whether it's because there is also a possibility that they may shift the convention to allow for some peace building ahead of that time. And if they feel that they can still do a lot of peace building ahead of November 15 and 16 to encourage those who have filed suits in court to withdraw those suits and allow peace to reign. I tell you, PDP has institutional memory.
Right.
PDP can be found in all the 768 local government and 6 area councils of Nigeria. They have ward offices in 8,809 political wars we have in this. I tell you, if they are able to resolve their lingering crisis, they can become the new bride that even those who have left the party will return to ahead of 2027. Because what I foresee, by Mala, what I foresee is an implosion in APC. APC now is taking everybody on. But by the time it gets to the party primaries for 2026, no.
Okay. All right.
That they can realize their future political ambition.
All right. Mr. Jide Ojo, fantastic analysis as always. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daily Politics. Appreciate you for stopping by this evening. As they always say, when it comes to Nigerian politics, time shall tell about what the possible outcomes would be as Nigerians continue to weigh their options about the politics of the day and the better political parties that would present them with candidates ahead of the 2027 elections. We're going to wrap up early and bring you this piece by Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed on the state of the nation. He spoke about a variety of issues. The recent conversation about the alleged Christian genocide, its impact on the conversations around insecurity within Nigeria, and of course the international ramifications and what it means for Nigeria's integrity going forward. We'll leave you with the take of Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. We'll see you next time.
Nigerians who worry about the place of faith or religion in our politics have a genuine reason to worry even more. The latest flare-up appears to be a planned event in the presidential villa, according to reports to be hosted by the president and the vice president, to unveil a $1 trillion or naira halal economy that Nigeria can benefit from. From what I've read, it appears that a lot of very prominent people are taking strictly religious lines around this issue. Rather predictably, but I have to say also disappointingly, some of those people are prominent Nigerians that should be standard bearers and who should be setting standards in terms of how a nation, a multi-religious, multicultural nation should live. At every turn, you have these people who look for opportunities to widen the divisions between Muslims and Christians, sometimes at great cost to the real Muslims and Christians who want to see faith improve the quality of governance and the way they live with people of their own faith and people who they don't share the same faith with. This is a great country made up of people of many religions, many faiths, many beliefs. Yes, our constitution says we're a secular country. What that means is that the state shall not be identified with a religion. It doesn't say we're godless people. It doesn't say we should not relate with the world that is fundamentally founded on faith to the degree, provided, of course, that it doesn't harm a single Nigerian who is either Christian or Muslim. So when you put the latest outburst against Nigeria availing itself of the opportunity to benefit from a huge halal economy, along with the clamor that Nigeria should be classified as a country of special interest by some loud voices in the US, and what appears to be some latent support and some sitting on the fence defense, you have to worry. After 100 years of existence, Muslims and Christians have created a world in our country where substantially faith does not interfere with the way we relate with each other. Why do we have people who think that you're not a good Muslim unless you're fighting a Christian, and that you're not good enough a Christian unless you resist everything that even remotely looks like pandering to Muslims or appeasing Muslims? My understanding of this appears to be that there are people whose job entirely is to exploit these fault lines for their own interests and to keep us permanently on our knees because we're unable to overcome the issues that divide us on the basis of faith or ethnicity or where you come from. And I think that Nigerians, genuine Muslims, genuine Christians, should rise up against these people. We need to tell these champions of doom and gloom that we can live as Muslims and Christians in a country that addresses equity and fairness and justice for everybody. They should tell some of these people that we don't want to fight each other simply because we are Muslims and Christians. They should tell some of these prophets of doom that Nigeria is not going to break up because they don't want to see the slightest move towards one faith or the other. When people make arguments that Nigeria is a secular country and therefore, particularly against anything that even remotely looks like an issue that involves Muslims, Nigeria is a secular country, so don't change anything about it. The constitution that says that didn't say that Nigerians should also forfeit their faiths. It didn't say that we should stop being Christians and Muslims. What it says is that we are a secular country and the foundation for peace and equity and progress lies in sustaining a country of faithful people or people of faith who should live together. There are millions and millions of Muslims that will not live in a country that refuses to accept the fundamentals of their existence as Muslims. And the same thing applies to Christians. We have come a long way. Why is it that at every turn there are people who are waiting for any opportunity to say, they are favoring Muslims, or they are trying to do something that is against Christians in this country? And I have to say this, Muslims are Nigerians too. They have the same right as non-Muslims. The Constitution was not written by Muslims. It wasn't written by the Christians of Nigeria. The Constitution was drafted by Nigerians, Muslims and Christians. And they chose to make it, to say that Nigeria is a secular country. This country was not created by Muslims. The people who became Christians largely after the British came to this country, colonized people who became Christians after, they didn't design this country. We were a colonial creation. But we've learned to live with each other substantially. A nation of 240 million people live substantially in peace with the fact that we worship different gods, we go to different places of worship, we interact. So why is it that we allow people who blow the whistle at everything that even remotely smacks of faith? There's nowhere in Christianity, to my knowledge, and I'm sorry if I don't have the full texts to prove it, but I don't think that there's anything among Christians that says you should fight Muslims at every turn because they're Muslims. And as a Muslim, I can tell you that there's nothing in Islam that says we should fight Christians for being non-Christian, for being non-Muslim. It tells us how to live with Muslims, it tells us how to live with non-Muslims, and it tells us how to relate with each other. Every context in which Muslims exist is defined by the Quran and by the Hadith. So these tendencies that people, these weaknesses and tendencies that people pander to are very dangerous. Those who insist that America must classify Nigeria as a country of special interest because there are claims that there is a genocide against Nigerians, I don't understand how ordinarily educated people are missing the point. If we start fighting each other, Americans are not going to come into this country to fight for Christians. The Muslim countries are not going to come to this country to fight for Muslims. We will fight each other to the end, and the world will move on. We don't need this propaganda that's going on.